Welcome back to Q&A with S&A. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Shane.
And today we are joined in the studio by there are no words to describe Nick Gearen. I'm going to say wonderful, but that is not enough. The fabulous, wonderful, amazing Nick. Nick is an MBA graduate, a 2022 HRD Rising Star Award recipient. It's like being at the Oscars, recognised leader in HR strategy. He's the founder of Shift HR, and he is an altogether amazing person. Thank you for coming into the studio today. You've gone all red.
I feel like I've got to come back more often if that's going to happen.
See, we love to talk people up, but you don't need to be talked up because you are actually fabulous.
What does HRD stand for?
HR Director. Is that
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Publication.
So there's not an award you created for yourself?
No.
It's okay.
Although that would be very like me.
It's okay. Accountants make up awards for themselves all the time. Yeah, log on to somebody's website and it says, we're the award-winning accountants in Burundara. Like, okay,
I didn't even nominate myself.
No. We can give you an award anyway. It'll be the Aintree Group Amazing Person Award. So congratulations. Here. I'll get the award sent out to you. For the background of the people listening, we met Nick at ECLA. We talk about ECLA a bit, and we have guests come in from ECLA. Amazing community based in the Burundara area of Melbourne. So another plug for you guys at ECLA. I expect another free coffee for that one. Thank you. So does Nick. We're both members there. We're all members there. It's a fab place, and put us in contact with each other. Funnily enough, I did a lunchtime session at ECLA, and I got an email from Nick, the other Nick at ECLA, saying, Nick would love to meet with you. And we met, and it was almost like we'd never not met.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It feels like so long ago now. But I had just joined there, and you had done a session, like a panel session there. Yeah. And I'd heard about you talk about the business here and what you do, and I was super interested in it. Yeah. And I was a business baby back then.
A business baby. I love that.
So, yeah, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? And amazingly, we did get along really well. We both got sort of similar interests around HR and that sort of stuff. You actually have made a profession out of it, though. I have dabbled in it along the way, and then go to Nick and say, "Oh, can you help me with this?" But Shift HR, as you said, you were a business baby when you joined at ECLA. It really was all very fresh. But tell us a bit about Shift HR and the journey. Love that. You're going to love that. The journey to get there.
How many times would you say journey on this podcast?
Too many times.
We've said it a lot.
Oh, what do you want to know?
Everything from the beginning.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
I started Shift HR almost 2.5 years ago now, and I started it because I worked out that I have a particular interest in a particular area of HR and I don't really like doing much else. Yeah. And so I kind of just launched a business knowing that was a skill set that was missing. Mm-hmm. I think that skill is more around heavy change environments and heavy complexity environments. Mm-hmm. But it's grown in its breadth of work, I think, because the complexity is different for different types of businesses. So we could be working with enterprise on global HR technology. Yeah. We could be working with small business on the very foundations in a complex industry or environment. Mm-hmm. It's really variable, but it's fun. Yeah,
yeah. And the background that got you to there. So, we've got people who might listen to the podcast who say, how does one start their own HR? What do you have to do that? You go do a HR degree, but how did it all come about? The industries that you've been in, what made you want to study HR for starters? And when you were at high school, what was the whole concept? Shane decided he wanted to be an accountant, when he was probably 5 or something like that. So it's not true. But it was a decision made in sort of high school. It wasn't I went through uni and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, which a lot of people do. What was Nick's journey?
Well, it was an accident.
There you go. Good.
I went to high school in regional New South Wales in Broken Hill.
Okay.
I never had any idea what HR was or anything to do with it. I remember having conversations with my mum talking about what kind of things I wanted to study, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And she always said, oh, you should be a teacher or you would be really good in HR. And I just thought, I don't want to do any of those things. I wanted to be a graphic designer. I wanted to do creative work. I wanted to focus in that marketing and media industry. So that's what I studied. I went to university and did creative arts and majored in digital media. I did a lot of production work and live video, and I found myself kind of in this producer role. That was where I kind of, I guess, started to move into this people space by accident. I moved to Melbourne when I finished, and I was working in retail and looking for creative jobs fresh out of uni. Anybody that studied anything creative in uni will know that's the most difficult period. Yeah. And while I was at the front counter, I guess, the national HR manager came into the store. I knew he was coming. I'd met him before. And he said to me, oh, by the way, my assistant is coming in. Could you let her out the back storeroom when she gets here? And I said, I didn't know you had an assistant. And he said, well, I actually had two, but one's just finished. Yeah. Do you want to give it a go?
Okay.
And I just went, sure, okay, I'll give that a go. I needed more hours and I was young and was happy to kind of pick up anything. And so I fell into HR and I never left. That was it. That was it. Later on, I went on to study and I did my MBA and I focused on HR a little bit there. And I have an unusual HR career journey because a lot of it has come through being thrown into the deep end and then validating with learning after. And surrounding myself with good experts so that I was doing it safely as much as possible. But a lot of people say, what do I need to study to be in HR? The answer is you don't need to study anything. It's very helpful if you do. But you can surround yourself with other resources and other mentors along the way. So that's how I started. And I was in retail for a really long time. I moved into financial services later on in my career. So changed industries, and that's where I began to kind of work out. I really liked going to organizations that have a big effort of change or a big effort of complexity. And to solve those problems and make those changes and bring people along the journey and help to make the business more successful and help to make the business more enjoyable for everyone else along the way, and keep everybody as safe as possible while we do it. And once those jobs are done, I'm ready to kind of look for the next one. And that's what started Shift HR.
Yeah, excellent. I think, knowing what I know about you now, Nick, there is still a very creative slant to what you do in HR. Like, people think HR is really dry and really boring, and you've got to know the Fair Work regulations, and we're all looking at awards and making sure that we've got superannuation paid when it needs to be and stuff. But there's a whole range of HR things that go on that people just do not actually put two and two together with, that's HR as well. And the stuff that you do creatively around HR. So tell us a bit about how that works too.
It's such a broad industry in HR. It really does. If you think about anything that an employee does in any business, HR can be involved. And not even from a negative perspective or a performance perspective, but more so from if you take a lens of performance and what makes great performance and what makes a great environment, then really anything can be HR if you want it to be. And I think the most successful businesses lean into their HR or people and culture with that view. I think it's why there's been such a trend towards people and culture as a term in the past, but it really, really can be such a strategic function, and it really, really can help focus on everybody at an individual level, groups at a team or department level, and then delivery as a whole. And so I love that kind of being in HR means that I can focus on actually what is the business goal that we're trying to achieve and what is the strategic outcome that we're trying to get to, and then how do we do it both from a legal HR perspective, if that's required, but more so from a point of view that we are mobilizing a large group of people to try and achieve something in one way, two ways, to collaborate with all their different personalities and skills.
Yeah.
And how do you make that enjoyable while trying to reduce as many friction points as possible?
Yeah.
And it's tricky
Yeah.
because people are people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What is your favourite sort of environment to become a consultant in? Because a lot of what you do now is to consult projects for big organisations. We think about it because in our business we're not a big business. Yes, there's a number of people here, but we're not talking at the scale you are. You're talking about like an office in New York and an office in London, and you're trying to talk to all these people at once.
Yeah.
What is the most exciting thing that you think you've worked on? Like even in Shift HR, there's some really exciting things, but
Everything is so different. Some of the things that we've worked on over just the last couple of years have been global HR technology implementation, or just a certain part of the employee life cycle kind of in a review and an update. But I think my favourite pieces of work are always around where is this problem in the employee life cycle, or this problem within the kind of group, whether it's a friction point or just an understanding or even a project, kind of more practically or operationally, and how do we get people there and get people on board? And then it's really just working with so many different skills. I mean, we're currently working across community services, we're working across media and agency environments, creative environments, retail environments. Did I say community services? We're talking through them, and government agencies as well. So the type of people within each industry, the type of people within each skill set, working with a group of scientists is very different to working with a group of graphic designers. But every one of them has a business model, and every one of them has a goal that they're trying to achieve. I think it's just translating that's the most fun. And I think the spark for me comes from working closely with an executive team and seeing their eyes light up like, oh, we can do that. HR can help us with those things. It's my favourite part is kind of connecting that commercial element to what's typically a pretty grey and scary space in HR for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a misunderstanding from most businesses about what actually HR is? You're alluding to that just before, because they think it's just conflict resolution. Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses and a lot of executives, maybe not coming from HR specifically, or business owners, might view HR a lot of the time as a bit of a roadblock, or the stick in the carrot and the stick, and I think the misconception is that the HR function should be and can be the whole gamut of that employment experience. And so while sometimes that requires standard or some of the more negative parts of employment lifecycle management, where it has to, or it's legal, or it's risk, or it's people performance, behavior-based, people are people, then that's generally where people will reluctantly rely on HR. But yes, the misconception is missing the opportunity of looking at the whole gamut of how this group of people within your organisation deliver something and work together, and how you can kind of lean into that to make it the best experience and the most successful experience.
So a proactive experience too. So being on the front foot, not waiting for something to be an issue.
Yes. Yeah.
Developing strategies before that.
Yeah.
To avoid them.
Well, and even outside of the individual, just developing strategies for the business. How many people? What kind of people? What capabilities are we looking for to achieve X, Y, and Z in our strategy? And businesses that kind of come up with this new strategy always have an ambitious goal that they haven't done before, or they're trying to elevate. And that takes new skill, and that takes new ways of doing things. And so everything in any model that an employee would operate in, HR can help with.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is very much still seen as
Very
we've got to get HR involved now.
HR's got a brand issue for sure.
Yeah.
Is that the right term? Should it be HR or should it be something else?
Well, I think that's why everybody started to call it people and culture, didn't they? Because like HR has this really like grey.
Oh, this is such a contentious topic in the HR industry.
Is
You're
it?
going to get me in trouble.
This is one of those situations where whatever Nick says in this room stays in this room.
Except on
on the
for when we
podcast.
post it.
Yes.
minor detail.
What do you think, Nick?
I've been pretty vocal about this on LinkedIn already. It's so
Yeah.
funny because, the history of HR is really important. It's at a very high level. It's always been born in a reactive space.
Yep.
It was kind of started as personnel. It was administratively geared, onboarding, offboarding.
Yeah.
Wars come and go, and it becomes about resourcing. How do we
Yeah,
find
yeah.
people? How do we get them ready? How do we not? Then it becomes about well-being. People aren't coping because they've been to the war. How do we help that?
Yeah.
But it has always been reactive in a
Reactive,
certain way. So it's always been in response. And we still see that trend today. We see a law change and or COVID.
Yeah.
Suddenly everybody in the business looks around and goes, that's HR, we don't know.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And I think that's part of the fun of being in HR. But I think that when we look at the terms that people call HR is human resource, I think it's pretty accurate. I think particularly when you're talking about strategically in a business, we're trying to achieve something and we have this group of resource, then that makes the most sense. People and culture, I don't think really covers all of the gamut. And I think it was a branding effort, but I think it's nice. That's fine. What I think is interesting is we'll start to see maybe a little bit of a trend towards, well, when does human resource become AI resource?
Yeah.
And if an AI agent operates in the same way with a job description as a human, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And who looks after that? And who has the skills? And so we go back around into the cycle. So I do think HR has a branding issue. I think people and culture sounds much nicer.
Yeah.
But I also think that if you have a HR function that is not anything more than the negative experience of HR, your team will see through the title people and culture. It's more than just what you call it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the thing as well is that, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and we've talked about how it impacts on small business because that's our, space. We're not, as I said, dealing with the bigger corporations that you are, and they're much more sophisticated in how they work their HR and people and culture function, whereas small businesses, we know, what am I supposed to pay this person for an award, and do I really need an employment contract? Like that's the sort of stuff we're talking about. And you and I have talked a lot about being a small business, you still have to have those things in place. Otherwise, the poop can hit the fan.
Oh, yeah.
That's number one. But also, how do you compete with all the other small businesses that are going around and employing people? So, talking about how people and culture or HR strategy, like doesn't matter what you call it, still going to talk about the same stuff. But you've got to have a plan about what that looks like for you. Like if you're going to call it people and culture, you have to then be able to say, our people and culture team incorporates human resources and blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about it from the small business perspective, which is not necessarily your key area, but you know a lot about it. What are the things that people should be doing when they're thinking about, I do need to do something about my HR function?
Yeah, every business I think that I've met has an intention to grow and has an intention to stabilize and be around for a long time, particularly if it's owner operated. And there comes a time where you do think, there's something I need to manage here, or there's somewhere I'm trying to get to, and that's where HR kind of comes in at some point. And I think that at Shift HR, we work so broadly across that scope, and there's a lot of unknowns at that point for small businesses. There's a lot of scary things, particularly now. All you hear about is this new legislation, a new change in rule, a new complexity. Somebody else is in trouble because they didn't pay properly, and it feels incredibly scary.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are business owners probably even listening thinking that is why I didn't grow the business, because it was too hard. It's hard because it's unknown.
Yeah.
unlike other standards like an IT security standard, legislation is much more flexible in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And much more open to interpretation. And that's because it has to cover so many different businesses at so many different times. And so interpretation and the way that it works for you becomes the complex bit. And you see people get in trouble when they interpret it wrong or they don't pay enough attention. And so I think that's the scary part. The first kind of steps are probably recognizing that it's not as complex as you might think. It's a lot of words and it's a lot of paper, but the fundamentals are there, and it's just about knowing. The last thing I think on that is confidence is incredibly important to kind of the success of a business of any size, and confidence comes from knowledge, and knowledge comes from experience and expertise and learning and trying and exploring. And while this area of employment law often feels completely unattainable, there are resources and there are tools and there are people that can help you. I think looking across all of the legislation, you might look at those hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper and think, I don't even know. But maybe only 5% of that applies for you. And you just have to know which ones are.
Exactly.
That's it.
It will work for most small businesses that if you're going to employ somebody, you've got a HR team. Like that's how it works. It may be that it's you, but you do. As soon as you employ somebody
is doing it.
There is somebody who's doing HR, and it could be you as a small business owner. You need to have an employment contract as a very minimum. Like, please do not just go out and employ somebody and say, it's just, just whatever, just give me your tax file number and you whatever. There are things that you need to do. But as you said, there are resources, right? Like Fair Work Australia has an enormous body of work in there that is designed for small businesses to get hold of, to be able to access that information. But then there's the questions like when we come to you and say, hey, Nick, we've got a new client who needs to do this and what do you think? And you go, oh, wow, there's a bit of a minefield going on there. We often will say that people who are startup businesses do not get the best advice that they can get from an accountant or a lawyer. And I reckon HR is on that list as well. Like, you're a startup business, you're thinking that you might be doing this, you've gone through this process of putting together an amazing business plan and then you don't access anybody's information because you can't afford it. It's actually really, it's not super expensive, but it's a lot of money to have to invest in the first instance. Accountants, lawyers and HR professionals. It should be like, you cannot register a business and employ people until you have advice from these people. What is your experience with, startups? I'm guessing that you have lots of people send you a message and, hey, Nick, I'm thinking about starting up a business and, then you say, oh, okay, let's just take a step back. What do you say to someone? You've started your own business. Fortunately, you employ you and, you've got all your employment contracts in place. But, how do you get over those conversations when you're out networking and, Eclar as an example, lots of new businesses, lots of fresh faces who are really excited and then you say to them, hey, just make sure you've got this in place.
I think I'm always super cautious because it's a tricky time in any founder's world to be trying to establish that and feel safe, as safe as possible. And like I said before, HR can be something that just turns people off of it, or employing people once they start kind of looking down that rabbit hole thinking, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it a different way, or I'm going to offshore into a different space, or I'm going to just get another consultant to help me with those things. And those things are all fine, but they all have business impacts. They all have profitability impacts and impacts on the way that you will operate your entire model. And more often than not, they have impacts on service level and kind of how the end customer feels about the service that you're giving. And so I think what I hate about the landscape is that if you're a founder with this vision and or a business owner or you're a leader in a business and you have something you want to achieve, that the employment landscape can feel like a roadblock. And just the same as probably HR can feel like a roadblock when they're trying to enforce it. Probably the only ones with the key to unlock it are also HR. And how to kind of like do it properly and start from a fresh foundation and make sure it's there. There's 2 points. I think the foundation is most important. Get your team ready, whether that is a consultant or an advisor such as myself, or a tool or a platform that can give you at least some level of comfort that you've got an understanding of what it means for you, and spaces to go, like Fair Work resources to check. There are hotlines available. There are systems out there that you can kind of look in and see, okay, well, what does this mean for me? It's not going to make you feel entirely 100% certain, and that's where I think advice is most important, and support from trusted sources. But the baseline is there, and then second of all, it's never-ending change. It will constantly be a portion of your business function. It will always be something that you have to check and review, just the same way as you have to pay bills all the time. You can't just let them go. Or tax. These things are obligations of you as an employer, and the team that you work with have entitlements. So thinking about it in those ways is really important.
So talking about tax, because that's where I come from.
You said the T word.
Yes, I
Nick.
did. You did. Sorry, that's triggered me. So one of the things that we deal with a lot with our clients is contractor versus employee. So a lot of our clients think that, I won't employ someone, I'll get a contractor.
This is going to be
but they
easy.
look like, they smell like, they feel, probably not the right words, but
Smell like.
but they might be deemed to be an employee for tax purposes and otherwise. Is that an area that you come across quite regularly in what you do? And how do they translate?
More and more regularly.
Yeah.
I think there are some kind of key principles about employment law and having employees that stand firm, and probably the common questions that I get are very similar to that somebody would ask about tax is, but can't I just, or but my contract says, or but I could just write this instead. A core principle of employment law is exactly the same. You can call it whatever you want, but if it looks and sounds like an employee to the Fair Work Commission or to the law, it is an employee. A common one coming up now is casuals or contractors. And you may have paid a premium for a contractor for 6 years and then receive a claim to say that person, it feels that they're entitled to annual leave payments because they believe that they were an employee. And if you have treated them as an employee and not as a contractor, and given them the same standards and boundaries and tools, and there are some intricacies around there that would suggest that person is an employee, then unfortunately you will be making a payment for all annual leave as if they were. And so that's where I think proactive is better than reactive. It is never intended to, you hear all the time from business owners that, well, how am I supposed to do this? There is always a way. And that's why it's designed that way. It's not supposed to inhibit businesses from doing business. And it's not supposed to deter people from hiring. But knowing how to do it and establishing it at the beginning makes it much easier as the journey goes on. Most businesses, even big ones, are behind. And that's because the legislation and the framework and the execution changes so frequently. And so it's okay to feel like you're not sure and it's okay to feel like you're working on it, but the foundations are there and that makes you feel much more comfortable.
We get a lot of questions about contractor versus employee. It's a really interesting area. We did a session with some young people last year, and they were all in a particular industry, and there were so many of them. As soon as Shane brought up the contractor and employee slide, there were so many of them like, oh, wow, okay, that probably means that I should be an employee of this business, and how do I go about having that conversation with the person that is employing me, because that's a really uncomfortable place to be in, to go and say, hey, actually, the circumstances around my employment suggest this. to broader those conversations, HR conversations are really tough. It's not easy as an employee to have a conversation with your employer because there's a little bit of an imbalance of the conversation. And then you would obviously then have organizations who are saying to you, oh, no, we just need everybody to work like 17-hour days. You just got to like make it sound like it's really good, Nick. Like that's a really good thing. How do those conversations feel for you, and how do you put them through your head and transpose them into okay, this is good HR strategy?
That's such a good question. And I think if I put myself in the perspective of a business owner, you have to ask yourself, if I'm trying to achieve something and I feel like I'm trying to wriggle around, who is the benefit for? Is something that Fair Work would look at, for example.
Yeah.
And if the benefit was for you as the business or the employer, then very unlikely to be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
The other thing about people is, as a business owner, you're a person too, and it's incredibly emotional. And owning a business is hard, and you're trying to balance so many competing priorities for yourself and for others, depending on your own personal values of how business should operate, and how you learned how to do business or how you were taught. All of those things will compete into how you think business should be done. And so setting that standard early makes it much easier because you know the framework in advance. But having the difficult conversation, I think if you're a business owner, you really do have to kind of reconcile that I want to run a business and I want to do it in the right way so that it's most sustainable and most successful. And sometimes that means that I might feel disadvantaged because I think I know a different way or a better way. But if that is not going to make your employee feel the same way, sure, you may try to cut some corners now, but you'll lose that person, or you won't retain anybody with that kind of method, or you'll expose yourself to risk. And we go back to the kind of stuff that we're talking about at the very beginning of the conversation, making that experience engaging and positive to develop a business is really important. And anything that turns anyone off just because you feel like it is going to make it harder for your business in the long run than actually just doing whatever it is that you were supposed to do. I don't believe that any business really is trying to do the wrong thing. Especially if you're the owner, I think you're trying to do the right thing. And, there's a lot of complexity around what's a mistake and what's wage theft. But it really does come down to intent. And some of those things can feel blurry. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Oh, no, I think, it's all philosophical discussions, isn't it? There are business owners out there who really care about their people, and then there are business owners who are, I know I need people, but, maybe I could replace them all with robots and that might be an easier situation. And,
maybe not.
That's going to be the robots will take over the world and stuff.
Or operational choices, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a tricky space.
Yeah,
it's a tricky space.
It is.
And the difficult conversation, I think if you're going to be a leader and you're going to be a business owner or a leader in any environment in anyone's business, is to first point of call is recognize that this is a part of your job. This is a part of the business.
Yeah. I think we talk to our leaders about that all the time as well, because one of the things that you find when, people get into their daily work and HR responses and responsibilities are not necessarily the number one on your list of tasks to do for the day, but those things are just as important as the task list. Like you've got to put the people in your team first. So as a leader, you've got to understand that some days will not go as they are planned because there'll be spot fires that you've got to put out and stuff.
And there's this element, I keep saying about the foundations, but it feels so complex and it's so big that it feels like there's always things to do. But there is an element of kind of getting in that support or making sure you surround yourself with the right tools so that it doesn't feel like you have something to do or explore or learn or be scared of for HR every day. Or from an employment law perspective every day. And then HR things become more about what you're trying to achieve and how you can best structure your business operationally and structure your employment operationally so that you can deliver, and then how you can make that engaging experience for everybody at the same time. Happy people make happy businesses. And business is not always happy all the time, and neither are people.
Exactly.
So how you balance that will determine the success of your business. I just think people don't like that.
No, it's not, where is the black and white in all of this, Nick? It's all very grey and blurry.
It's not as clear as tax.
No. Oh, we make tax pretty blurry as well.
Legitimately.
Always. Just like Nick does the HR stuff legitimately.
That's right.
The people management, you've been in people management, even if you did get thrown in at the deep end and just all of a sudden said, no worries, I'll give it a go. It's hard. There are days when you would no doubt have been dealing with really complex people issues, because that's what HR does. It's not just about, ticking off tax file numbers on people's employment declarations and stuff. It is actually dealing with complex people issues, and people are people, like you said. How do you decompress after those things? You've been in HR for a long time. How do you not take those home and be like, oh my gosh, today was this and this and this, or this, I saw this today and this is you. Nick's partner is also in HR, so I'd imagine there's a lot of HR going on in the room, or either that or it's open the door, front door, no HR in here. There is no HR here.
There's got to be some boundaries.
What are your boundaries?
Yeah.
What do you do outside of work that lets you go, okay, I'm not sure. Do you go punch stuff? Do you do axe throwing? How do you decompress?
If he says yes to that, I'm impressed.
All of the above. Whatever I feel like on the day.
Drink cocktails at E-Class. Thank goodness for the bar downstairs.
Thank goodness for the bar. I think, I see often the cause of employment problems is people managers are kind of promoted because they're incredibly skilled in their area. And I feel lucky that my area of being skilled is in people. And so, of course, you have experience to that. And so personally, I have less of those problems that I come home with. But I'm lucky in that way. Working with people who are the best in their field at their skill, who have somehow acquired a team or been promoted into a team, and now they are dealing with people, that is a whole new skill set. And so I think what works best is viewing it that way and kind of, having this team is not something you have to do so that you can just do a good job. In the same way that just telling them to do a good job is not going to make them do a good job. And just saying that they're a contractor does not make them an employee. It is viewing it as a skill so that you can go home and go, that was just a part of the skill set that I'm learning. And that's just a part of the job that I can put aside and not feel so emotionally attached to. There's my method for delivering any of that kind of stuff is trying to remove the emotion from any of that situation and looking at the practicalities, the operations, the law, the function, whatever that is, and then inject your empathy back over the top of that. And that method, I think, allows you to go home and go, well, this was actually a business thing that I did, or a team thing that I did, or a delivery thing. I did it in a way that was right for my team and for my people. I did it in a way that was right for me and my morals and my standards and values. And thinking about it procedurally like that really helps you to kind of lay your head down at the end of the night and think, okay, well, I'm not carrying this person's emotions and I'm not feeling horrible about my own. It is just a different part of the job, and it's something that most people just pick up by accident.
I think that's absolutely true, because small business owners do not have necessarily any people management skills. They can be really exceptional at what they do in terms of whatever it is that their business is, but the people side of things is really hard. But as you said before, Nick, we're all people. So, putting an empathy veil over a business decision or something like that should not be that hard for us, because we just have to put ourselves into other people's shoes really sometimes, don't we, and understand it from their perspective.
And it's tricky because particularly in that small to medium phase, you hire people that you feel are aligned to your vision and your direction.
Yeah.
A really common pitfall for small businesses or business owners is there will come a time, whether you hire your best friends or your family or anybody, there will come a time where there is a competing priority. And especially as a business owner with somebody that you hire, they may have been with you for 10 years and they may want something that you don't feel is the right direction or you can't afford, or whether it's more money or more time or another team member or a goal. And that will create a place of friction.
Yeah.
And so being able to kind of look at that and go, well, have I structured myself in a way that I feel like I can make business calls and can I deliver this in a way that I know works for this person? That's not to suggest that we're going to agree.
Yeah.
But have I structured those soft skills around my people skills enough to say, we know what happens when we disagree and we also account for what we do from a values perspective and a morals perspective when someone has to make a call.
Yeah.
And so being prepared for those things is often more difficult than just the law itself. And it takes practice.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that you were born to be a HR leader? What does your mum think now that you are actually doing what she? That's more of a point. Maybe I'll get Nick's mum on next time. Nick's mum, feel free to call in or to comment in the comments about the YouTube video about what you think about Nick. I'd love to know. Does she? I know she's super proud of you. What does your mum think? What does she actually say to you? Because I say this to my kids all the time. I told you.
Yeah.
I told you would be good at HR, Nick.
Yeah, I think she thinks I'm good at HR because I'm bossy. But it's something that I love in terms of achieving a goal.
Yeah.
And it's something that I love in terms of bringing people along the journey and making sure that they feel like it's a great experience too, and that they feel like they've learned at the same time. And often my work is around achieving some sort of business goal that requires some sort of human resource effort.
Yeah.
I think that I just love being able to kind of get in there and see that that's possible and surprise people along the way. Mum would say I just like to boss people around.
Which is totally fair.
So your mum's still in Broken Hill?
She is, yes.
Okay.
Mum and Dad and my sister all still in Broken Hill.
So why did you move to Melbourne? Or, you don't have to answer if it's too hard to the story.
This is not, there is no reflection here
I'm just
on the
curious
people
about
of,
why
beautiful
Melbourne.
people of Broken Hill.
Just did.
Not versus Sydney or versus that, because you're basically at that spot where you could go
Anywhere.
Yeah, it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Broken Hill's the centre of the universe.
I just think, just personally, it just like attracted me. Like
Yeah,
I just loved the city and the vibe. I spent a little bit of time in Sydney, a little bit of time in Adelaide, and I just liked Melbourne the best.
Okay.
Especially at that time, I was looking for creative roles, and so it was very attractive from
Melbourne
a
are the
creative
winners.
perspective.
Yay, Melbourne.
are the
Go
winners. Now
Melbourne.
I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Yeah. Normally we ask questions around travel, but, you spend a lot of your time driving backwards and forwards to Broken Hill. I'm not going to ask the question about travel today because we could talk about travel another time and we could do that. But I want to talk about what is you 2.5 years on from starting your business. Is it everything that you expected it to be? Are you where you planned? Because I know you're a planner. Like you didn't just go wake up one day and go, I'm going to run Shift HR from now on. Where are you in your plan? So, you're a small business owner, just like all of the other small business owners. You may work with, global organisations, but you are running a small business in Australia. Are you where you thought you'd be? What's next for you? That's there's multiple questions in there, but
yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I am a planner, but I'm also incredibly flexible. And I think that that's what makes me good at what I do because a lot of employment law or human resource project delivery or org delivery is about prepping and flexing. Am I where I thought I would be? No, I thought I would be. I'm a bit further than I thought I would be in a good way. It seems to be moving so much faster than I thought, and that is energizing to me.
Yeah. It's amazing what happens when you're good at what you do.
Yeah.
You can tell my mum that.
Yeah, I told you so.
But yeah, there's lots of things that's coming up for us. We're growing ourselves, same questions. I mean, I feel very lucky that this is my wheelhouse, and so they feel less confronting to me.
Yeah.
And when I'm not sure,
It's one
I
thing
have a husband who also does it.
Never have to ask you whether you've got your employment contract sorted out. Like, do you need help with your policies and procedures?
Although it's a bit like the plumber sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
Anyway.
I'm determined to not be that person.
Yeah.
And also I hire HR people so they know
Good point. Yeah, that's a
if
good
it's not
point.
right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to grow a little bit. We're launching some new tech platforms around this compliance and foundational work called Sidekick, and that's super exciting. I think it's really applicable to small and large businesses, and the intent is to demystify the complexity of it.
Yeah.
And there's some great learning resources and stuff along the way there too.
For the people who are listening to the podcast, I've seen what Nick is creating with Sidekick, and it is incredible for small business people. It's going to be an absolute game changer for them in a HR perspective, particularly those that do not have HR people on their team, where you've got like a business manager or a practice manager who's looking after the HR. It's really going to be a massive, massive help. Like we're not talking about a platform that helps you with payroll. We're talking about a platform that helps you with people and people management, which is, such a, as you and I have talked about a lot, is really missing in the small business space, because the affordability of access to HR professionals is an issue. We see it all the time, and it's a real thing. So
I mean, the value of kind of bringing in an expert to your business is that they make you feel so much more confident because they know that area.
Yeah.
But that's not always accessible to a small business.
Yeah.
And so that's where kind of it was born, around how do we take this HR knowledge and complexity and give you a way to apply it to you, and at least flag the things that you might want to look at, and give you something that makes you feel much more confident, and tells you when it changes. That's probably the big
exactly.
one.
So what's the ETA on that? Is there a time frame?
Yeah, it's probably only a couple of weeks away now, which is really
so
good.
It's very soon.
It's very, very soon. So we've got a
Awesome.
few people in it now, which is going well. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really good time to kind of get in, because you get so much extra support with us at the moment, just while we apply it
Still
to
build
you
the platform.
and while we kind of work it for you. But really in the next couple of weeks, it will be out in the real world, just live for anybody.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's very fun. It's
Yeah.
very fun.
We will share all of those details, Nick, so that everyone who's listening and who's connected with us on our social medias and our podcast platforms will be able to get access to it. So no doubt you'll get lots of praises for it, because I've seen a little bit of it, not as recently as probably we should. We need that catch up at ECLA over cocktails. But we will share, because it's incredible what has been built, and it will be a really easily accessible platform. It's going to be, super cool.
Okay.
Love it. There you are. You're a creative genius. You did your design degree, and then you applied it to a HR platform, which everyone would honestly look at and think, it's just like a boring old tick the boxes and stuff, but it is not a boring old tick the
that's
boxes.
just
It's super fun.
I can't help myself.
Gamified.
It's got to feel
gamified
nice.
HR, making it cool for
HR's
everyone.
boring enough. You've got to make it interesting.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So look out for that information. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We could talk a lot. I say this to everybody who comes on Q&A with SNA, because there's always something that we don't ask during the podcast. So maybe when you're free again, we can have you in, when you're not off traversing the planet, helping all the global people get their HR together.
Thank
you
for having
so
me.
much, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Q&A with SNA. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll chat again soon.